Good.
Well, John, here we are at Crescent Beach, and Enders Beach, which is a state and national park, is just south of Crescent City in Del Norte County. And the reason we're here is because before this was a state and national park, this was the Posey Ranch.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well,
we have a lot of history here, huh?
Well, John and I have a lot of history because our family were good friends with the Poseys that ran the cattle ranch. And so what John and I are going to do today is we're going to kind of take you around and show you some of the sites of when this used to be the Posey Cattle Ranch.
Yeah, we have a lot of history here, don't we?
Yeah, we sure do. What do you say, what do you think we should start with first?
Why don't we go down...
How about the slaughterhouse?
Yeah, we'll start the slaughterhouse.
Okay, we're going to...
But the road used to be called Old Slaughterhouse Road back in the day. When we were little kids. And we used to ride our bikes on it and everything. We had a lot of fun. But they changed it after it became a state park to Enders Beach Road, but it was called Old Slaughterhouse Road back in the day.
Yeah.
So you want to get going?
Yeah, let's head on over to the old slaughterhouse, John.
All right, let's go, Raymond. Right now we're going to head to where the slaughterhouse was, and they have a tunnel right before where the slaughterhouse was, and the Poseys used to run the cattle underneath the road here, and that tunnel's still there over here on the Enders Beach Road, Old Slaughterhouse Road. Anyway, we're heading over there right now, and the Poseys had their home up here too. There was Sam Posey. Was Dagny there too?
Yeah, Sam and Dagny.
Sam and Dagny. He lived with his sister, and they had a house up here. You can't even tell where it's at now. And they had a big barn over here too, where the slaughterhouse was. So we're gonna show you where that was, but it's all overgrown now. You wouldn't even recognize it from back in the day. But we used to ride our bikes through here and stuff. We were little kids. And our family's been coming up here for, what since
3 generations.
3 generations.
Yeah.
So right now we're getting close to where the slaughterhouse was. So I'll show you the tunnel first. Okay, I'll show you where the tunnel is.
Yeah, let's go check out that tunnel. Yeah.
So let me pull over right here, Raymond.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at the tunnel now. This is where the Poseys used to herd the cattle underneath the road here, into where the slaughterhouse is over there. Turn the camera around and film. Yeah, it's pretty much overgrown, blackberries and everything. I'm going to try to do a view here. Yeah, you can't get to it, but the tunnel's right here. Okay, so the Poseys had a big barn over here. Remember the barn, Raymond?
Yeah, it was right through those trees there. The old
right
Posey
next
barn.
to the trees.
Uh-huh.
I'll try to have some pictures here I can show you where it was. But it sure looks a lot different. Because I guess the cattle, they ate everything up, right, Randy? And I'm Randy.
Yeah.
Raymond.
Yeah, Jake.
Yeah.
Well,
who's Jake? So yeah, I remember the barn there.
Yeah, where those cypress trees are, and that's where the old gold mine was supposed to be. Apparently,
oh yeah.
Apparently Sam Posey, there was rumors he had discovered an old gold mine. We've looked all around. We've never been able to find anything. It might have been just one of the Posey tallest tales.
Yeah. Those big trees is where the barn was, right there. And I think his house was over here, wasn't it, Raymond?
It was to the left. Yeah, it was to the left of the barn.
That over there is where the house was.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go and we're going to show you where the slaughterhouse was.
Yeah,
okay?
let's go to the old slaughterhouse, John.
Okay, let's go. Raymond's just going to walk over there. I have a bad ankle for some reason, and I'm kind of limping on my ankle. Anyway, he's going to walk over there, and I'm going to drive over there and meet him. So let's get going.
Well, here it is, John, the old slaughterhouse site, the old Posey slaughterhouse. But I didn't, you know what, John, I didn't know the part that you were saying that they would run the cattle underneath that, that tunnel and take them to the slaughterhouse. I didn't know that. Now, the Poseys had a slaughterhouse because these were not dairy cattle, these were beef cattle. They raised them for beef. So they would raise the cattle and they would slaughter them in the slaughterhouse. And Ben and Gus, they'd be there working for hours. And one of the stories I remember is Ben Posey, who was the joker of the brothers, he would come out carrying an eyeball from a cow, and he goes, "Hey boys, we're gonna make you some eyeball soup for lunch."
Yeah.
He used to do funny stuff like that.
And they used to bring liver to us over at the cabin.
Oh really? I don't remember that.
Yeah, we had liver and onions over at the cabin.
Wow.
You remember that?
I don't remember liver.
He was always, Gus was always wearing a hat, and he was always on the tractor, the red tractor.
Yeah.
And he'd be out there dealing with the hay and everything. You remember that?
I remember Gus, yeah, he'd always be on his truck. He was a little more quiet. Ben was he was like, for us, he used to call me Chief. He'd see me and he goes, "Hey," I'm like, what, 8 years old. He'd say, "Hey, it's Chief Dirty Belly."
That's what he called me.
No, he called me Chief Dirty Belly, the No Wash Tribe. I don't know what he would have called you.
I thought he called me Chief Dirty Belly.
That was my name.
Oh, I thought it was mine.
Unfortunately, Ben's no longer with us, so we can't go find Ben.
Yeah, he used to drive that red Ford pickup.
Yeah. But that's what they would do. They would slaughter the cattle here at the slaughterhouse, and
and then we meet him at night at the cabin.
Yeah.
And they'd play cards with Mom and Dad.
Yeah. And we're gonna go, and later on, let's go down to the old cabin.
Yeah, show them where the cabin was. But all this, you remember, you could see the ocean from the road, but now you can't.
I know you said that like 4 times already.
On the other cut I did though.
Okay, go ahead. You can say it again.
Okay, let's start over.
No, you can actually include that. That would be funny to include in your clips.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
We'll just do it over.
All right.
So you remember it was pretty all pasture. It was all flat land. You could see the ocean from here.
Yeah, that's because the posies would graze the land around here, and since it's not been grazed anymore, it's just come back into brush and trees again.
Yeah.
And you know, the great thing about the posies, they were good stewards of the land. You know, the posies would never overgraze. I remember they'd rotate their cattle around the different pastures.
Yeah.
And when we were little kids running through the pastures, I remember it'd be up to our eyeballs sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
The thick grass.
We would be here for like 3 months, huh? During the summertime.
Yeah, it would vary. It would depend on how long we'd stay here. But yeah, we'd stay in a cabin. The posies kept for us. They kept some cabins down the end. Want to go check that out?
Yeah, let's go check it out. Okay, we're gonna head up.
We're gonna go show you the cabins where our family used to stay in, a little ways further down the road.
Can't tell there was cabins there at one time, but there was. It's all overgrown now. All right, Raymond, let's get going.
Let's go.
Okay, Raymond's up there ahead, and he's trying to find a way into where the old cabins were. The cabins were here by a creek, and he's just trying to find an opening to get where the cabins were. Did you find an opening, Raymond?
Yeah, right up here, John.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me explain real quickly. So the posies had these old cabins here. Later on, we'll tell you why they had cabins here. But this is where our family used to stay, and we spent many hours here, so we know this area real well. Anybody else would look like a bunch of trees, but starting right here, this is the redwood tree that John and I and my sisters, we used to all climb up in this redwood tree.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Remember that? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right here.
Back in the day, huh, Raymond?
Yeah. And we used to climb up in this redwood tree, and then right at the base of this redwood tree, we had an old refrigerator that we'd catch the smell
on the beach.
Beach, and we'd smoke them in a smoker made out of a refrigerator. And see this alder wood right over here? We used to cut down alder wood, and that's what we would smoke the smelt with right under this very redwood tree. Hey, maybe we should try climbing it again. What do you say?
I think we're too old for that, Raymond.
I'm never too old, man. I am never too old. Don't even say that.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, there was an old refrigerator.
Yeah.
It was leaned up against a tree right here.
Yeah, it was right. No, I think it was right about here. And
yeah.
And I could totally orient where everything is because the old cabins were right there, and you could still. Let's go check that out.
Can't tell.
Well, I know you can kind of see sort of a clearing here still. It was the old cabin. The old posy cabins were right in here. And you can kind of see kind of an old clearing right here.
You wouldn't know it today, would you?
Well, kind of. It's like the only area that's sort of cleared out in here.
What's that, Raymond?
What is it?
Is that bear? Watch your foot, man. You almost stepped on it.
No, I think that's elk. That's elk poop.
Huh.
That's elk poop, because deer poop would be a little smaller, but elk is bigger. Yeah, so elk now graze in here. Oh, which gives me a memory. I remember when we were kids, we used to hear the elk, when the males are in rut, they make this sound like woo-wee, woo-wee. We used to hear that all the time up on the mountains around here.
Yeah.
Oh man, so many memories. Oh, let me explain why there were cabins here. I'll do this really quick. Okay, this road that John and I have been riding in on, Enders Beach Road, that used to be the main Highway 1. And so what happened is the Posies ran their cattle ranch, so the sisters and they wanted something to do. So the Posies built these traveler cabins here. And they operated.
They were called motor camps during the
day. Yeah, they're called motor camps. So they had this motor camps there. Well, once the main highways moved inland, this now became a real back road, and they never got any customers. So they tore them all down, and they saved two.
There was a fire, so they all burned down except for 2.
Okay, so I didn't know that. Anyway, there was 2 left, and
that's what Dad told me.
Yeah, so Dad told you about that. So there's 2 left. And they kept those up, and they would let our family come here and spend, sometime during the summer, every summer, from going back 3 generations.
Yeah, you know how it all started, don't you, Raymond?
Great Grandpa Gilmore, right?
Grandpa Gilmore. They went to some college somewhere.
Yeah, they went to a college.
What college
Grandpa Gilmore was an engineer, professor in engineering in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Right, and then the Posies
went to school there.
Yeah, and they invited them up here, and they said, "Hey, we need help with getting water to the cabins or something." Wasn't it?
Yeah, because our great grandpa Gilmore was real skilled with engineering. So anyway, great grandpa Gilmore, who was a professor, became real good friends with the Posey brothers, and so that friendship extended down the generations. It extended down first off to our great-grandfather, then my dad, and then our whole family. And through those generations, as the Posey brothers aged, our family would come here and spend these wonderful summer months in these cabins that were right here. And these were rustic cabins. We cooked on a wood stove.
It was great. We were on the other duplex of the cabin, huh? Because there was two different
cabins. Yeah,
but they were connected somehow by a motor port, right?
No, they had a
carport,
a garage. And here's the funny thing about it: we didn't have electricity, so for our refrigerator was just a wood box that went into the garage with screening.
For the cold, because the garage was colder.
Cold, yeah.
And then I remember in the morning we used to wake up and we go through the back door. And we go into the kitchen where Dad would be making pancakes with all the blackberries we picked. You remember that? And he used to make pancakes, and he'd make us pancakes every morning. That was kind of fun. Yeah, we kind of lived off the land because we used to go fishing, and we'll talk about that later on down the road here. We used to go fishing, and we'd eat fish. And to this day, I still love eating fish. Yeah. Sure looks a lot different though, huh?
Yeah.
And then I remember we used to hike above the cabin.
Yeah, there's a hill that goes directly up the hill there.
Oh, and a beautiful view. You see the whole Crescent City from there.
Yeah, and we would be here for all that time, and we would see no other people other than the Posies. It'd just be our family. Although once in a while, the big deal, John, remember, we go into town, the big town of Crescent City.
Yeah, they had a comic book store in Crescent City, old-fashioned.
Yeah, they had a comic book store.
And we used to buy them and read them on the bed.
Yeah. And then
we all pile up on the bed, and all 5 of us would read it on the bed.
Yeah, I remember that. Because Mom and Dad had the biggest bed. We had those little bunk beds in the second cabin.
Yeah.
And we all stayed in there. But yeah, it was pretty sweet. It was really nice. And one thing I would say, I don't think I wore shoes the whole time. We'd be barefoot all the time running around out here. We were like partly wild, man.
That was a long time ago.
Well, yeah.
When you go back to the road, I want to show where the fence was, where we hopped.
Yeah. Let's go down to the road.
All right, we're gonna head back to the road.
Because let me finish. Because what happened is we'd stay in the cabin, and then in the morning after we ate breakfast, we head on down to the beach, and that's what we're going to show you how we did that.
Oh, we bring driftwood back from the beach.
Yeah, for the fire,
for the wood burn stove in the cabin.
Yeah.
And do you What happened? How come what happened? The Posies lost custody of the cabin?
That whole story. I'll tell you that in a little bit. Okay, there's something else I should mention, John. Besides the 2 cabins, right next to it was an old gas station.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And it was no longer functioning when we would come here.
But there was people living there. Remember that? We were friends with those people too.
Yeah, they were somebody who lived here too.
They were pretty cool.
We
nice. Went to Oregon Caves with them. Remember?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
We took a day trip over there.
So, but the old islands where the gas pumps used to be were still there. And I vaguely remember for a while there was a really old style gas pump there.
Yeah.
Right around here. Now remember, I said earlier, this was all pasture. This was not in here. So there was a gate here, and we'd climb over the gate, and the Posies, allowed us to do that. And then we had a trail that would take us all the way down to the beach. And some funny stories about crossing this. Sometimes there'd be bulls in there, or I remember the bull calves, and they would chase us, and we had to outrun them and by the time we got.
Yeah.
You remember that?
We used to do it for fun. We used to jump over the fence and hey, come and get us, and we'd run out of the way.
Johnny and I were wily little boys, so of course we'd go out there and hey, and they'd chase us and we'd run out and before they'd get us. That's how little boys have fun. But anyway, we would climb over that and then we would just walk all the way down, and our family would spend all day down on the beach.
Yeah. We made beach houses and everything.
Yeah, we made little beach forts, and us boys and my sisters, Doreen loved to fish. So it was mainly me, Doreen, and Dad, and you. The 4 of us would fish.
You remember the time she
Yeah, I know what you're going to bring up. When she cast out, because we used spark plugs for weights.
Yeah, we used spark plugs for weights.
And she cast out, and a spark plug hit me on the head and knocked me out.
Yeah, the line was tight. She didn't let the line go.
Yeah, she didn't let the line go out.
And she cast it and pop!
Out in the head. Yeah, he loves telling that story. Don't ask me why.
I remember.
There was blood all day. I couldn't even see anymore. They had to hand walk me back. And we survived all that miraculously.
Yeah.
So we would catch all these fish, and we'd bring back all these perch, and surf perch, and we would eat them all, boy. Yeah. And then there was one rock beyond the fishing rock, and my dad would take us out there sometime. We're little kids. And it is treacherous, man.
Oh yeah.
I went there and looked at it the other day again. I haven't seen it for a while. It's like this little tiny ledge, and you're
crazy.
Like 50 feet above these crashing waves. My dad would be carrying bucket. Let's go, boys.
Yeah, I remember that there was an old car there.
Yeah, because right above it, we'll go on later on to the lookout point. Yeah. There's a lookout right above it. And then people used to push stuff off there sometimes. And one time we showed up in the summer, and there was an old car down there. Someone had pushed over the edge. It was there for years.
And it rusted away eventually.
And oh man, I could just go on. We used to go down at night and have campfires on the beach. Well, John, we can go on and on about our old days in the cabin.
Okay,
and
Randy,
nobody wants to listen to us drone on.
You're going to your character again, Randy.
Oh. Well, John, we could drone on all day long about our cabin, and nobody wants to hear us drone on it.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do next?
Why don't we go out to the lookout point?
Oh, yeah, just a little short ways up the road.
That's right above where the fishing rock was.
Yeah, right above the fishing rock. Okay.
All right, let's go. We're going to cross the creek.
Okay, so now we're at the Enderts Beach lookout, and this is where Enderts Beach Road ends, and now it's a little day-use park area. And then from here, a trail continues. It's called the Nickel Creek Trail. Well, that Nickel Creek Trail is the old Highway 1 that used to come up here.
So the old Highway 1 was right here.
Yeah, and what happened is that hillside kept falling away. That's why they had to close it and reroute it inland. But there's a trail there you can walk on. And when we were kids growing up, we used to go hike down right behind us down to, I think it's called Nickel Creek Beach, and it's a long ways down there.
Yeah.
And that would be something we would do regularly during the summer. And we would never, and the thing I got to point out is on that beach tonight, we would never see anybody. It would be just us.
So, do you remember why the motor camp eventually closed down?
Yeah, well, the motor camp closed because they relocated the highway.
Oh, kind of like the Confusion Hill, kind of the same thing, right?
I don't know about
Confusion Hill. They diverted the highway because they had problems or something.
Yeah, they moved.
And they're not getting as much business. Yeah.
Right. So once the road, the main freeway was moved inland quite a ways. Yeah. Then this road was no longer a regular route for traffic, and so they didn't have enough traffic to keep the motor code.
Well, not the one. It's 101, right?
Well, it used to be the 1 when it was here. Then when they moved it inland, it was called the 101.
101. Yeah.
So that's was sort of the demise of the old hotel business.
Then
for
the fires.
Posies.
Yeah, and then the fires started.
Fires came.
Yeah.
But hey, man, it was great for us because our family got to come and stay in the 2 cabins that they kept. Thanks to great Grandpa Gilmore.
We used to hike up here all the time, but it was a lot different. The road was worse and a lot of potholes, and no one was on this road ever.
Yeah, people didn't come up this way because it was a Posey ranch. It wasn't a private road. People could drive up here, but nobody did. There was really no reason to drive up here.
So how come? Well, it looks a lot different than like.
Well, okay. Here's the story of what happened it goes back to the Coastal Conservancy Act. Was created in California. It goes back to the California Coastal Conservancy Act that was approved in the 70s, and that opened
late 70s, I think it was.
Yeah, late 70s, sometime in the 70s. It opened up legislation to acquire basically a bunch of coastal property. So this area was eyed to acquire. The Posies did not really want to sell it. They liked having their ranch here, and they were taking good care of this land, but they were threatened basically with eminent domain by the state. So
too bad.
Yeah, well, it's a state park now. People can come here and enjoy it. So it was around the late 1970s, early 80s when the Posies eventually had to sell to the state, and then the Posies relocated their ranch up into the Smith River area. Oh,
it was off Lake Earl. Yeah, we helped them with the hay. In 1981, we helped them with Gus and Ben. They did hay. They were doing hay over there. Yeah?
John and I, we stopped coming. I was about 18 or 19 when our family could no longer come up here and stay in the cabins. And there was a transition period where we got to remember the park ranger. There was a park ranger.
Oh yeah, Dale. His name was Dale.
And we got to know, and I always thought, whoa, park ranger was so cool. But
he stayed at the gas station, that old house over there.
Right, in that transition period. So eventually the Posies moved out, probably early 80s, late 70s. Relocated to Smith River, and we stayed there a few times, and we helped them out on the ranch. But yeah, it was a pretty sweet life. And I come to this area, whenever I come here, this seems so familiar to me.
Yeah, home.
It's like home. Probably, I gotta say, this section is probably, to me, the most beautiful place in the entire world. And I've traveled all over the world. Yeah. And this section of this Ender's Beach coast, especially where it ends, where our old fishing rock is, to me is the most beautiful place in the entire world. And I mean that honestly and sincerely. Oh, Johnny, I remember another reason we would come up here to the lookout, because when we would come up here to see if the smelt were running. When the smelt would spawn, it was a big deal. And if you go on this point, you could kind of see their bunches of those smelt as the waves broke. And we would scan the waves, and we would say, the smell, they're coming in. And then that was a big thing. We had a triangular net. And
the Posies had it, right?
Yeah, the Posies let us borrow their net, and we'd wade in there and scoop up these.
They were involved too. They were fishing with us.
Yeah, and we used to, oh my gosh, we used to go and harvest the clams, the razorback clams down here in the beach on low tide. And we would spend hours and hours fishing. Oh, this is another great story. On the fishing rock, Dad would bring us out there in super low tides, and we'd find all of our fishing rigs that had got snagged up when we fish on the fishing rock. And we'd reclaim all of our lost tackle gear so we could reuse it again. Yeah. That's how cheap, let's say frugal my dad was.
Yeah.
Oh, and we used spark plugs for fishing weights. Dad, during the year, would go to all these mechanic shops and say, can you save your spark plugs? And that's what we would use for fishing weights. Yeah. And we wait for a big sale at some variety store to buy the fish hooks.
Check it out.
Oh, and something I want to mention. Okay, in 1964, there was a major flood up here. And for many years after that, all these logs would float down the river, and this whole beach was just covered.
Oh yeah,
with logs. Remember that?
I remember that. Well, that pretty much concludes our video about the Posey Ranch that used to be here, and we're gonna head back. We're gonna go to the casino, huh, Raymond?
Yeah, we'll go give it a try.
Try it out.
And it's a reminisce. We reminisced on our good old times.
Yeah. So it was fun. So,
and the thing I want to add to it is, it was we didn't cost money. It was a real rich experience for us kids growing up, and it didn't cost hardly anything. No. Nowadays families have to go to these expensive, fancy resorts. And you know what? We should dedicate this to good old great Grandpa Gilmore.
Yeah,
because if he hadn't forged that,
You know, I remember we used to pile up in the green station wagon, like they had on the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Like all of us kids would pile up in the station wagon. We all drive up here.
Yeah, there's 5 of us kids and my mom and dad. So 7 of us would be crammed in that.
Yeah, and the dad had an oil leak, and he had to bring a bunch of quarts of oil to keep putting oil in the.
Yeah. We were not real what you call wealthy.
No, we weren't wealthy a family at all.
We were very happy, but and we didn't need money to keep us happy.
And coming up here was a beautiful break from where we used to live.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
beautiful. Yeah, the whole area.
I gotta say, as soon as I turned 19, I moved up here, and I went to school and to college. Oh yeah, and I've been coming back, and now I live up here permanently. So this is I've always felt like this area, and I think you has always been my home. And you too. Now you moved up here a long time ago.
Yeah. So we're going to get going, but we want to thank you for tuning in.
And if you get a chance, come on up to Ender's Beach Lookout. It is a beautiful place.
All right, take care, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.